Probably the point of today's gospel is to show us how Judas begins to betray Jesus, how he's a thief and he takes from the common purse and now he's upset that the money's going away. But I'd like to focus on the very end of the gospel where we hear about Jesus and Lazarus. Everyone's coming to see Jesus and they see that Lazarus is there as well. And people who have heard about Lazarus being raised from the dead are now more and more attracted because they want to see the man who was dead and is now alive. And what happens to Lazarus? His own life is put at risk because the chief priests know that Lazarus is becoming a sort of attraction for the people towards Christ. What does this say to us, I think? I think the main point is this, Christ died for us. Christ died for us, and his death changes our lives somehow. It made us different. Many of us were living lives, who knows, of sin, of sadness, whatever it might have been. And at some point in our lives, we realized that Christ was with us, and we allowed him to act in our lives. We allowed him to change who we were. And from that point onwards, perhaps we became a new person. We became something different, something that in some way drew people to ask, what is it that that person has? And they realize that it is Christ. Now, people who hate Christ, people who don't want to hear about Christ, are going to hate us as well, because we become signs of Christ. Every time someone sees us and remembers our story, they're going to think about Christ. And those who don't want to hear about Christ don't want to hear about us. They don't want to hear about what happened to us. They don't want to hear about how we were converted. They don't want to hear about how bad our life was and how good it is now. And so, in many ways, we become, like Lazarus, persecuted for Jesus' sake. Let us in this, as we enter into Holy Week, let us be reminded of that fact that we are signs now of Christ. We are in some way reminders in the world of him. And let us not be afraid of what persecution arises. In fact, Holy Week is here to remind us that in many ways we are called to participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that all the more we may receive his joys. Let us then pray for that grace to participate more fully and to become more and more identified with Christ himself.